20 minutes of education.
So, how have the duties of first ladies evolved in the countries we've discussed historically? Let's look at the United States. Is life in the White House a burden or a luxurious pleasure? Being a first lady in the US nowadays comes with a certain set of expectations. First ladies are responsible for decorating the White House, but mostly adding small details, especially on the second and third floors. The historical rooms, such as the Lincoln Room, are untouched, preserved as they were during his time. Some parts of the White House are considered historical and belong to the American people, not to the families living there, especially since they are only temporary residents. First ladies also have to oversee repairs in public areas of the White House. If they or the president want to make changes to public spaces, they must first get permission from the White House Historical Association. Of course, no world is without bureaucracy. Want to paint the baseboards in the hallway? Get permission. A fun perk for the First Lady, she has an access to a confidential collection of historic furniture from the White House's past. She can pick furniture from this collection or hire a designer to help her choose new pieces and decor. However, despite all these perks, for example, Melania Trump's Christmas decorations became the subject of memes because they were, well, very specific. But there are also some not-so-fun surprises. For instance, any gifts given to the First Lady don't belong to her personally. To keep them, she has to buy them. This rule doesn't apply to small gifts like shower gels or candles from family members, but for significant gifts from foreign governments. The gifts belong to the United States. For example, in the 1970s, Nancy and Ronald Reagan received 2 live eagles from the German Chancellor. They also got a horse from the Mexican President José López Portillo. All foreign government gifts are stored by National Archives and Records Administration and later sent to the Presidential Library. The only exception is personal gifts. If the First Lady wants to keep them, she can do so for free. So she can keep the China set, but she's not taking the horse. And of course, all gifts undergo a security check before being given to the First Lady. Here are a couple of fun tidbits Michelle Obama shared in interviews. Once their daughter Sasha opened a window in the White House, and immediately security called telling them to close the windows. Security conditions in the White House are so strict. They're clearly not worried about cold or wind. We've all heard of frequent incidents with weapons or terrorist attacks in the US. The same goes for car windows. When the First Lady is traveling, Michelle was only allowed to travel with the car windows open once, as a special one-time bonus. And of course, no First Lady is allowed to drive herself. That's considered too much of a safety risk. US First Ladies almost never get anything free. At the end of the month, they receive bills for every meal, dry cleaning, toothpaste, and personal hygiene products. Hillary Clinton even said that after living in the White House, her family faced financial difficulties. She once mentioned in an interview that they left the White House in debt. So, it's not all glitz and glamorous as it might seem at first glance. And when it comes to fashion, First Ladies also have to pay for the designer clothes they wear, or donate them to charity, or maybe leave them to the National Archives. But life for modern First Ladies in France is much freer. They have fewer restrictions and can walk around Paris freely if they want to. It seems like it's hard to limit the French because they are used to living by their own rules, and the main rule is to live for their own enjoyment. One of the interesting modern First Ladies of France is Carla Bruni. What's fascinating about her is that she didn't stop developing her career as a singer after marrying President Nicolas Sarkozy. And yes, she married him when he was already a president. It was quite a whirlwind romance. They started their relationship in late 2007, and by February 2008, just a few months after Sarkozy was elected, they were married. It was clear he was having a good time in both his love life and his presidency. Carla Bruni, the Italian-French singer, songwriter, and model, played a prominent and sometimes controversial role as the wife of Sarkozy, who was president from 2007 to 2012. Why controversial? Well, society wasn't used to seeing a first lady who was so active in her non-traditional role, and especially one who was so confident and beautiful. People said she was undermining Sarkozy's presidential image. She was known for her glamorous style and outspoken personality. By the way, recently, Carla made her debut as a Victoria's Secret angel on the runway, becoming the oldest model ever at the age of 56. And yes, true to Victoria's Secret tradition, she was wearing lingerie. Now another interesting and unconventional figure is Brigitte Macron, the wife of French President Emmanuel Macron. What's unique about their relationship is that she was his teacher. In 1992, she taught theater at a private school, where she met 15-year-old Emmanuel. He took part in her school plays, and over time, the relationship grew closer. When Emmanuel's parents found out, they didn't approve, so they sent him to study further away in Paris. This put a halt to their relationship, and Brigitte got married and had 3 children. However, years later, they reconnected, and Emmanuel didn't back down. He later became the stepfather of Brigitte's children, and as of now, the step-grandfather to her 6 grandchildren. Emmanuel and Brigitte have been married since 2007. Brigitte continues to be a mentor for her husband and plays an active role in his political campaigns, helping him with speeches and shaping his agenda. As Marc Ferracci, the head of Emmanuel Macron's election campaign, said, Emmanuel couldn't have done this journey alone. Her support is crucial for him. People who worked with Macron say Brigitte is one of the few people he truly trusts. When asked about her presence at a meeting, he replied, "Her opinion is important to me." And Brigitte calls herself the head of Emmanuel's fan club. Now let's take a look at the modern-day Asia, specifically the most secretive country in the world, North Korea. There are some intriguing facts about Kim Jong-un's wife, Ri Sol-ju. Unlike Kim Jong-un's father, who never publicly introduced his wives, Kim's wife has been seen in public. First of all, she's beautiful. Many users on social media pointed this out after photos of Kim Jong-un's visit to China with his wife were released. Some even compared Ri to popular Chinese and South Korean actresses. And it's not just her looks, she's talented too. She studied abroad in China, where she studied music, vocal performance, and was a singer in an orchestra that performed internationally. It's known that North Korean officials have tried to erase her past as a singer, even confiscating CDs of her performances. From what's known about her, it seems like she's cool and intelligent. She earned a PhD and even visited South Korea in 2005 as a cheerleader for the North Korean team during the Asian Athletics Championship. She was one of the 90 supporters chanting "We are one," meaning united with South Korea. A South Korean teacher who met her during that trip recalled her saying, "We want to take lessons from South Korean teachers after we reunite as soon as possible." In April 2018, state media in North Korea announced that Ri Sol-jun's title was elevated from simply companion to Dear First Lady, a prestigious honor not seen since 1974. At the same time, Ri began taking on a diplomatic role. She attended a summit as the First Lady and met with South Korea's First Lady. The two were spotted getting along well during their meetings. Ri also met with American diplomats, helping ease tensions and assisting in organizing a visit by the Supreme Leader and his wife. Some observers believe that under Ri's influence, Kim Jong-un has made some concessions regarding the dress code for women in North Korea. Now they're allowed to wear pantsuits, jeans, black tights, platform shoes, and heels. There was even a ban on women riding bicycles. But that's been lifted now. It seems like Ri is gradually opening North Korea to the world and vice versa. It's a tough mission, but she's handling it in her own way. Oh, and she wears Chanel, which is unusual for North Korean women, and even gives Dior to her subordinates. In September 2012, Kenji Fujimoto, who was Kim Jong-un's former personal sushi chef, described meeting Ri during a trip to North Korea, saying, "She's so charming, I can't describe her voice. It's so soft, As a parting gift, she gave him a Dior handbag. Now, that's what I call a first lady. She's an inspiration. Let's continue with the first ladies of Asia, who are changing the modern world. Here is an interesting story about an 18-year-old Italian woman who worked part-time as a waitress in a cafe in Cambridge and later became the longest-serving president of the Indian National Congress in India's history. How did that happen? Let me tell you. Sonia was born and went to school in Italy. Then she moved to England to study at a small language school. She also worked part-time as a waitress in a cafe, where she met her future husband, a young student and future engineer, Rajiv Gandhi, from India. Last name sounds familiar, right? They got married. He became the Prime Minister of India, but then he was assassinated in 1991. Sonia initially stayed away from politics, but eventually 6 years later, in 1997, she entered the political arena, motivated by a desire to continue her family's legacy. Sonia Gandhi became president of the Indian National Congress and held the position for more than a decade, the longest in India history. Under her leadership, the party won 2 consecutive general elections in 2004 and 2009. Now let's wrap up with some surprising facts about modern first ladies of Ukraine. I want to start with someone whose education and career are even more impressive than her husband's, the president's. I'm talking about Kateryna Yushchenko, better known as Kateryna Yushchenko, the wife of Ukraine's third president, Viktor Yushchenko. Before meeting her future husband, she worked at the White House, in the U.S. Treasury Department, and even as an economist in the U.S. Congress. Then she met Viktor Yushchenko on a plane and they had 3 children together. But firstly, let's dive into the details. How did she end up in the U.S.? Kateryna's parents were taken to forced labor in Germany during the Second World War. Afterward, in 1956, at the invitation of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church in Chicago, they immigrated to the U.S., where Kateryna was born. Her father worked as an electrician and her mother as a seamstress. Kateryna wasn't afraid of work either. At 15, she started working as a waitress. Seems to be a popular job for future first ladies, huh? Kateryna attended Georgetown University, where she earned a degree in international economics, and later pursued a master's degree in international finance and nonprofit management at the University of Chicago. During her university years, she interned in the Illinois Department of Commerce and with the U.S. Customs Service. She even worked as an editor at the Center for the Study of Morality and Public Policy in Washington. After university, she was the director of the Ukrainian National Information Service. It's a non-profit organization aimed at spreading information about Ukraine in the US. She later worked as a special assistant to the Deputy Secretary of State for Human Rights and Humanitarian Affairs and was involved in public relations at the White House. In 1991, she became an economist in the U.S. Congress, while also serving as the vice president of the Ukraine-U.S. Foundation, which she founded that same year. Then, in 1993, she met Viktor Yushchenko on a flight to America. In 1998, they got married. Just to put things in perspective, Viktor Yushchenko graduated from university in Ternopil, Ukraine. Not that there is anything wrong with Ternopil, of course, just saying for comparison. It seems that Kateryna's life was a well-planned, step-by-step journey. First education and career, then relationship and family. She was ahead of her time, as she married at 37 years and had children later on. Afterwards, Kateryna became a Ukrainian citizen and renounced her American citizenship. And about the current First Lady of Ukraine, Olena Zelenska. I absolutely admire her. She embodies a perfect blend of intellect, composure, and beauty. Personally, I'm so proud of the image of Ukraine that she represents. She is the epitome of modernity, combining style and grace with deep humanity, with no traces of the past. She studied architecture, then became a successful screenwriter. In 2022, she gave a speech before the U.S. Congress, becoming the first lady from any country to do so. She called for more military aid to Ukraine. As for her work as a First Lady, I'd like to highlight a few steps Olena has taken to expand the influence of Ukrainian culture and spread information about Ukraine worldwide. In 2020, she launched an initiative to introduce Ukrainian language audio guides in the world's largest museum. For example, now you can listen to an audio tour in Ukrainian at the Palace of Versailles in France. These are important steps as Ukrainians feel like a significant part of the world even when they are abroad. Before, who would have even imagined a Ukrainian language tour in Barcelona or Istanbul? As of the 3rd of May of 2024, Ukrainian language audio guides have been introduced in 83 museums and cultural institutions in 44 countries around the world, thanks to Olena's initiative. Another project is opening Ukrainian language bookshelves in libraries worldwide. So far, 190 libraries in 47 countries have opened Ukrainian bookshelves, including the UNESCO headquarters. It's always the small steps that make a difference. These historical and modern figures embody the role of First Lady. They come from different parts of the world, different eras, and under different circumstances, but they all share one common mission: to change the world through soft power. The First Lady doesn't have an official position and doesn't get paid for her work, though she performs a variety of duties. Some of them have had more interesting stories than their husbands. Some have been braver, some have gone to extreme measures for their people, sacrificing their personal lives and health. Others have skillfully used their soft power and influence. Let's share the thoughts. Write in the comments which First Lady mentioned in this episode impressed you the most and why. Or if there is a First Lady from a country that wasn't mentioned, tell me about it. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as there are many interesting topics ahead. You can also support my channel here, somewhere, and by the link in the description below. Thank you for watching. Remember that supporting each other is important. And if there is something you didn't like and you have thoughts on how to improve this, feel free to share them. I'd be grateful for constructive criticism. Even though I'm not great at taking it, but I'll do my best to improve. See you!